Welcome everyone to Army Guest Night with my special guest, Brian Rowley, who no longer works for Forbes, but that is how he became famous in the Army fandom for his amazing BTS articles. Oh shit, you literally just told me and I already forgot. You are now a full-time employee of where?
Oh man, and here I thought the second one was going to be cleaner than the first one. I now work full-time for ultimateclassicrock.com.
Your dream job, yes?
It's about as close to the old school 70s like rock journalist dream job as I think it gets these days. It's pretty fun.
Well, perfect. That's literally all you need, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
For right now.
Can everybody hear us now? I think you guys good. Okay, good. Good. Okay. I told you the first thing that's going to go wrong is some kind of tech issue, but everyone's nice enough to point that out.
Yeah, better to iron it out early.
Okay. So, for those of you who don't know, I kind of already mentioned it. Brian Rowley is someone who has written some very lovely and accurate and articles on BTS and the music industry in relation to BTS, and that is how Army found him a while ago. And in particular, it was like the articles you wrote near the end of 2020 that really put you on Army's radar, right?
Yeah, I think so. A few in summer of 2020 when the news came out about the Billboard bundling rules changing.
Yeah, I remember that article.
That kind of, there was one or two there, and then a couple quiet months, and then end of 2020, I think things ramped up again. Yeah.
So you've been frolicking around in our fandom with your sassy tweets basically since then, continuing to make sassy commentary on the music industry and generally being a good time. And
I've never made one sassy remark in my life. Ever.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I'm completely over exaggerating.
You're mischaracterizing every tweet I've ever written.
But yeah, so, and then somewhere in there, you and I became friends on Twitter, and just sassy friends on Twitter. I mean, come on, let's be real. That is literally what connected us, the sass.
So, I will make that concession.
Okay, yes. All right. So I invited Brian here today because I wanted to interview him and learn more about him, his background, and as well as his perspective on the general dumpster fire that is the music industry from his perspective as a music journalist, because you have a much wider perspective, I think, than just armies in the fandom who are not professionals in this environment. So I figured I'd pick your brain tonight, and we'll start by talking a bit about you, your background, how you got into all of this, and then working our way down the line until we get into the supposed tea that I don't know if you can spill, but we'll
find out. We'll find out.
Okay. All right. So shall we begin?
By all means.
Okay. So first things first, 3 very easy questions. What is your favorite color? What is your favorite animal? And what is the current song that you're playing on repeat?
Okay, my favorite color is blue.
Good choice.
My favorite animal, I mean, the real, like, in my heart, my favorite animal is dogs, but that's a boring answer. So my other answer is alligators.
Flat fuck
You see
Friday.
You see me. I retweet Gators daily every week. I have their flag in my gym. Gators stole my heart. Love Gators.
Can you explain this to me? So for those of you who don't know, is that every once in a while, Brian will retweet Flat Fuck Friday.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious, but I have no idea what it is, and I've not been able to like find an adequate answer on Google. So can you please explain this to me?
Gators Daily is a social media account that is dedicated to standing alligators, and every Friday they share a meme of a really flat, wide alligator, and it's Flat Fuck Friday.
I've seen the
And
video. I've seen like the song video.
yeah, it's really catchy. It's like, it's Flat Fuck Friday, you fucking losers. Yeah, it's great. But they also make their own merch, and they're like radical, like pro LGBTQ, like anti-capitalist. Well,
Nice.
I mean, they sell merch, but they have a bunch of cool woke merch.
We all gotta live in the machine somehow, right?
Right. Yeah. But anyway, everyone should follow Gators Daily.
Okay, thank you. I guess that kind of clears it up. Not really, but thank you.
I don't even remember what the other question was at this point. So.
What is the current song that you're playing on repeat?
Right. I've been listening to Spirit Love off the new Slash solo album quite a lot. I've been listening to the whole record nonstop, but that song probably the most.
I don't know that. What genre is that?
Heavy rock, hard rock. Slash, the former, well, and also current guitarist of Guns N' Roses. It's his solo project.
I see. Okay, so you're fanboying over your favorite
course,
genre, I guess. Right. Okay, makes sense. All right, so then a little bit deeper, I guess. You want to just say like the basics. What is your name? Where are you from? And what do you do? In general, how would you define your profession?
Totally. Yeah. Hi, folks. I'm Brian. I live in Austin, Texas, and I've lived here for the last 8 years. I grew up in Gilbertsville, Pennsylvania. Wanted to change of scenery, so now I'm down here. And my day job is a music journalist, writer, editor, reporter. And I'm also a professional musician who makes a lot less money doing that thing than the previously mentioned thing. For now.
And do you want to tell anyone about what you might be working on the side? Something that might come out?
Yeah, right. Thank you for tell me about it. I recently recorded a 5-song solo EP that I played all the instruments on: guitar, drums, bass, and vocals. Be releasing it under a yet undecided solo moniker, and hopefully folks will be hearing a lot more and seeing a lot more of that sometime this year.
Yay! I'm very excited for it. And I originally wanted to have you on here so you could talk about it and tell us about how music is made and how it gets uploaded to streaming platforms and all that, which I'm still partially going to ask you about later, but we'll get to that.
Sure.
Okay. So then another very basic question, but a really important one. How did you get into music journalism, into all of that?
All right. Well, if I had to go back to the very beginning of when I even, knew that music was a thing that I cared about, the first ever CD that I got was when I was 5 years old. I got the Beatles One compilation. It was their then brand new greatest hits CD. And I didn't know anything about music. I was 5 years old. I was in kindergarten, but I saw that commercial on the TV like every day. And so I just told my parents, I want that Beatles CD.
Oh, you mean back when they used to like have commercials on TV for like artists and music that was coming out? They don't do that anymore, do they?
It feels fake when I recall that. It doesn't feel like a real thing. I haven't seen a commercial for a CD in like 15 years.
I remember the Music Now. Or what was that?
Oh yeah. Now that's what I call music.
Yes, that.
I think they're still making them. I think they're at like number 700 or something now.
Who's buying them?
Darned if I know. And it's weird because now I feel like the kids who are singing like their versions of those songs are like just the same age as the kids who are like making the original songs.
You mean like the Kids Bop versions?
Yeah. I feel like, because I guess now that's what I call music, is the actual song. Yeah. And then there was Kids Bop. Right.
Kids Bop is horrible. Sorry, I derailed you from what you were talking about. Okay, back when in the good old days when they used to promote music and commercials on TV.
Yeah, right. Sorry, you just, this whole tangent has made me reckon with my own mortality thinking about CDs. But
it made me do that with mine too when you mentioned that. So you're not alone.
Good. So anyway, I guess I was an easy mark from day one. I was always going to be a rock and roll fan. And, so I grew up loving classic rock and all of its, various subgenres and offshoots and whatever. So I always kind of knew I wanted to be a musician. When I was around 12 years old, I remember picking up a copy of Rolling Stone that had Guns N' Roses on the cover of it. It was like an anniversary story on their debut album. And I had never seen that kind of like, sexy, dangerous sort of like depiction of a rock band. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. I don't even understand most of this. I'm 12 years old. I shouldn't be reading this. But I was hooked. I thought it was like, crazier than any fiction I had ever read. And that's kind of when I knew I wanted to be a journalist as well. And so, my whole life, I've really only been interested in, one singular thing, music. And then I kind of approached it from the side of making it and also writing about it and reporting on it and speaking to other people who make it. So yeah, basically I have like one marketable skill, two marketable skills, I guess, that pertain to the same industry.
Writing and playing?
Yes, exactly.
Gotcha. Okay, so then what instruments do you play?
So I'm mostly a singer and a guitarist. I would probably switch that in order of priority. I've been playing guitar for about since I was 7 years old.
Wow.
And I've been singing for, I guess, about the last 10 years, at least in bands. So those are my main two instruments. I used to play drums in my high school youth group band.
Every high school boy played drums.
That's true. It's probably much to my parents' relief that I was not primarily a drummer. So I never had a kid at my house. I would just show up to the church early, like on Wednesday nights, and we would like jam on stage before it was time to lead worship. We were playing like Green Day covers and stuff.
Nice, so nice. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm not a very good bassist, but for the purposes of recording an album by myself, I kind of, fudged around with it a little bit.
Okay. Well, I can't wait to hear that when that comes out. In the next 10 years, it'll come out.
Yeah. I also, trust me, nobody wants to hear it more than me. I am super excited to hear it someday. And then I can't wait for all of you to hear it.
Good. Yeah, and then for those of you who don't know, Brian has recently decided to start posting his covers on Twitter and Instagram, so you can hear his beautiful vocals on there as well. So a question for you then. If you decided that you wanted to go into music journalism, what did you study? Like how do you get there?
I did go to college for journalism. So I got a bachelor's degree in that.
In journalism, or do you specialize in that? I don't know how that would work.
Right, yeah. So our communication school, the major was just journalism. So freshman year.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to school at the University of Texas down in Austin. That's why I first moved down here, and then I stayed here after I graduated.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, the communication school here, it's just a journalism major. And, freshman year and a little bit of sophomore year, you take your kind of introductory general reporting classes. And then the last 2 years, you can start to branch off into other things. A lot of the people that I knew, I feel like they either went into sports or politics, neither of which appealed to me. We were pretty limited in our music and culture journalism classes, but there were a few along the way, and I did some long form storytelling classes too, which they had nothing to do with entertainment whatsoever, but the skills there were really critical for learning how to write like longer form features.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And so, yeah, along the way, I interned at a few local papers and national magazines and online publications. And after college, I moved to New York to take an internship at Billboard. Tried to hack it up in New York and realized very quickly that it wasn't for me.
Why not?
At least not at the time. It was just my girlfriend, who is now my wife, but then girlfriend and I were living there together, and we were living in like the basement of a 3-bedroom apartment. And when it would get super cold out and we would Swiffer the floor, the like moisture from the Swiffer would freeze on the floor because it was that cold.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so it was kind of like the textbook like first crappy apartment in New York, and I just decided I didn't want to do that at the time, especially because
you have to really want to live in New York to live in squalor. Like I get you.
Yeah. Also, I was like literally 1 month into being a full-time freelancer, like at the beginning of 2018, and I had no idea what I was doing, and I was not making any money.
A freelancer in New York, that is a big risk.
Right. Yeah. Because I took this internship and was like, oh, they're gonna hire me on the spot as soon as my internship's over, and of course that didn't happen. So then I just didn't have a job, and I was like, you know what? I should figure this out back in Texas, not here.
Where it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Okay, I totally get it. So then, music journalist and being a music journalist, what do you do exactly? Is it just writing about artists who are releasing new music? Like what is the scope of what you do, I guess?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll kind of describe, a day at Ultimate Classic Rock for, kind of a microcosm of like what it is that I do. But so there's the general news reporting, which, with the artists we cover, it's typically not that exciting. So-and-so put out a new single, or like this artist announced their new album, or, they're doing this collaboration thing, or, oh, they announced their, summer tour, whatever. News is just news. It's normally not that glamorous, but that's a big part of it. Then we've got time to do some reported features. We get to interview artists about, new projects that they've got going on. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of anniversary pieces for big albums, big singles, big milestones that happened.
What do you mean by that? Like, what's an example?
So like when the 50th anniversary of Led Zeppelin's 4th album came in November, every day for the first 8 days of November, we did like kind of a deep dive into the history of one of the songs on the record, how it got made, and like what they were doing at the time and how they were influenced. And then when it wrapped all up, we did kind of one overview story on like how they made the album. And, maybe they're like 1,000 words long. So kind of a mid-length story, something that's not going to take you forever, but, a little meat on the bones. Mm-hmm. So we do a lot of pieces like that. That's kind of a big part of what makes our publication go. Mm-hmm.
So basically you get to fanboy and get paid for it.
Oh yeah, get to fanboy and like under the guise of like being a historian, an archivist, but really I'm just a fan. It's like, oh, don't talk to me right now, honey. I have to go upstairs and listen to Aerosmith albums for 8 hours straight to get in the zone.
Perfect. Okay. All right. So that helps. So then in the middle of all of that, I would like to ask, how did you discover BTS?
I first heard of them when I was interning at Billboard. When
would this be?
This was the fall of 2017.
Gotcha.
So
okay. So when I discovered them too, basically when they finally like broke into the US.
Yes, and was it Wings that came out then? The name is totally escaping me.
No, Love Yourself, Her.
Yes, that was the one that I think it was in the top 10. I had a top 10 debut on the Billboard 200, so we were doing a lot of stories on them at the time. I was not familiar with them initially. One of my...
Oh no! We lost him.
Kind of like a crash course.
Yeah. Wait, Brian, can you rewind like 2 sentences? You froze for us for a minute.
Yeah.
He froze again. No, you're back. You're good.
All right. Am I safe?
Yeah. I think so.
Okay. I'm a little... Oh, now I can't hear you.
Well, I'm not talking. I am talking now.
Now you're talking? Okay.
Yeah, you just, you said you were writing pieces on BTS, or not, you guys were at Billboard, were investigating BTS because they had broken through.
Right, okay, yeah. So, that was their biggest achievement so far in the US. So we were covering them a lot. One of my fellow interns was into them at the time. I didn't know who they were. She gave us kind of a crash course on BTS, and at the time still I was kind of like, okay, thanks. But then after that, when like early 2018, when they were gearing up to release more stuff, that's when I was like, okay, this is pretty interesting. And a ton of people are really, really into it. So I should probably check this out more. So I would say between late 2017 and mid 2018 is when I like actually got into them and kind of figured out what was going on, what the big deal was.
Did it surprise you at all? Because I would imagine that before that you probably weren't listening to K-pop or involved in that, right?
Yeah, I guess in that like span of time, it was like, I guess I had kind of just taken as fact, like that they were really popular. But yeah, I do remember when I first heard about them, it was like, to me, I was like, what the heck? This band just like came out of nowhere. Now everyone's talking about them. But then I realized that, well, no, they had been around for several years. Before that, they had just finally like broken through in the States. So yeah, I do remember like when Fake Love came out, the video broke all sorts of records. It was kind of funny because by that point I was kind of like, okay, I get it. They're really big. I should be like paying attention to this. And I kind of had the sense that they were going to keep getting bigger still. But like none of my friends were into it. So they were all really confused and they were like, what are you doing? What are you writing about? And I was like, look, it's kind of a lot to explain in a short amount of time, but like, trust me, it's like, you're going to be hearing about it a lot more. So just like pay attention because I don't want to have to explain it to you later.
Oh, that's so funny. One, because yeah. I think we all go through that in our own lives. If we're the first one that we know to discover BTS, everyone else is like, what are you talking about? What are you listening to? And you're like, no, I promise this is good. This is good shit. This is important.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so then would you say your first song that like really threw you in was Fake Love?
Yeah, I think that was the first one that I remember like waiting for it to come out. Like I knew it was coming out before it came out. You know what I mean? All the other stuff, it was like I went back and found it. But yeah, Fake Love and the whole, Love Yourself tier release, I was like, it felt very exciting to like wake up that day and get online and see like just how much buzz there was, just how much excitement there was.
Yeah, totally get it. So then in that sense, I know it's kind of difficult for you because you're a music journalist, so your perspective on music is maybe a little different, but so I'm okay if you say you're not, but like, do you consider yourself an ARMY, like, or just a fan? Like what is your personal relationship with BTS?
Yeah. So yeah, I feel like people ask that. I've been asked that before, and like, I would say, like, yes, if asked point blank, like, yeah, hell yeah, I'm ARMY, you know. But I don't know, for some reason the question always feels weird to answer, you know what I mean? Because I feel like even if you say yes, like even if two people both said yes to that question, they might both have like a different understanding of what that answer means. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think part of it is that we all appreciate the music in different ways, and we have different behavior of like how we engage with the fandom or not. Like, you can be an ARMY and not spend any time online. Like, I have some IRL friends who love BTS and consider themselves ARMY, but they're not in the online space, and it's just like, you know, like, so I get it. I think you are whatever you say you are. If you say you're ARMY, then you're ARMY. That's awesome.
Yeah, I think, and you know, now that you mentioned that, I do think there were times when I had a little trepidation to kind of give an answer one way or another, because, you know, for the sake of writing with a certain amount of objectivity,
yeah, you kind of need that if you're gonna write on them, be a journalist,
right?
You know,
like, I never wanted to give the impression that I was just writing PR for BTS. I didn't want anybody to assume that. It was like, no, I'm writing the things I'm writing because like I have observed these people and this phenomenon.
True.
Right, like I've kind of like looked at this with my own eyes, and like I've thought critically about it, and I've come to these conclusions by myself, and it's like I just so happen to conclude that this is a cool group who make cool songs and seem like generally good people. So I'm going to write positive things. But it wasn't a foregone conclusion that I was going to write positive things. I had to figure it out for myself.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if anyone's told you this or if you've seen it, but like us, the fandom in general, like, I mean, it's hard to say ARMY is not a monolith, but in general, this fandom doesn't mind criticism, you know, on BTS if it comes from like a place of objective evaluation and constructive criticism. Like no one is saying that BTS are perfect. We just it's just like the thing that always dings this fandom is when you have some kind of piece that comes out somewhere that's just like written by shitty journalists with shitty opinions and bringing their like xenophobia or, you know, misogyny to what they're writing, and that just, you know, makes everyone see red.
Yeah, right, and it should. And it was always, you know, it was like some of the stories that, you know, I remember writing were kind of in response to things like what you've just mentioned, and it was always just so strange, I guess, the response to them, because to me it was like, well, you know, if somebody else felt emboldened to like write this ignorant, inappropriate piece and like express their bad opinion with like their whole chest, then
yeah,
like why shouldn't somebody else feel entitled to talk about why their opinion is bad?
Yeah, I mean, can we talk about that article you wrote that was about that, who was it, a YouTuber or someone who had some like really shitty takes on us continuing to put BTS's song Butter on the top of the charts, and then that person got mad at you, so you had to release a statement of, I don't know, neutrality or something. I remember, like, you know.
Yeah.
Or do you want to? I don't know. Can you talk about that, or do you not want to? Up to you.
I can talk about it. let me just say this. That was my least favorite experience that I've ever had in the roughly 4 years that I wrote for Forbes.
Wow.
Yeah,
Why?
and because it was just so much. It was the reaction and like the fallout and like it was like, I mean, I got like a 2,000 word email, and I'm not going to talk about any of the particulars of it because I don't think I should.
Let me just
But
summarize. For those who don't know, Brian has always defended BTS, this fandom, the way that the system is broken in terms of how you get a #1 song on Billboard charts, and he just defended the fact that we were playing the game and everybody was mad because we were playing it better than they were, but we were within the rules of the game. So if people didn't like it, then they had to change the game. They couldn't get mad at us, and so someone lashed out at him for saying that.
yeah, all I'll say is like, when I say it was like my least favorite experience, I don't mean like, I want to make clear like that no one's sicking anyone's lawyers on each other. It's not that kind of deal. It was totally not that. It was just like so much more back and forth communication after the fact than I wanted. I was like, you know what? This, like, there's at the end of this, there was not even, I didn't even get any satisfaction out of this. This was so annoying. That's what it was. It was just so annoying and silly. When all was said and done, I was like, oh my God, dude, you have annoyed me into submission. Fine. I won't write about you anymore.
Basically,
Are you happy now?
it basically you took it's like if you take the bait of some troll on Twitter and then that argument just spirals and you're just like, I knew this would never work out. Why did I engage anyway?
Yeah, exactly. You know that it's a zero-sum game from the beginning, and yet you convince yourself it might be different this time. You know, I might have some more fun. You never have fun. You never ever have fun.
You never win.
No.
Okay. So then when you decided that you were going to go into music journalism, was it a hard decision, or were you just like, this is it, this is what I'm going to do, I don't have any alternative options? Or did you have like an alternative career that you were going to pursue if it didn't work out?
I've done some time doing non-music journalism, you know, when I was, especially like my first year or two out of college, just because it was available and it was decent money and I needed some work. But I never viewed that as a long-term thing. I never considered not doing music journalism to go into another type of reporting full-time, or another non-journalism field. I always kind of knew like, okay, there might be some lean years as I figure this out at the beginning, but I'm not gonna stop doing it.
Mm-hmm. Is there, I guess another way of phrasing the question is, or another question that I have is like, what is the point of music journalism? Like, is it you being a vehicle for promotion? Is it a vehicle of you shining the spotlight on things that matter or things that are bad in the industry? Is it a way for you to guide informed discourse? Like, what is the point of music journalism?
I think it's a little bit of all of the above, except for hopefully being a PR machine. There are plenty of places that will do that. I prefer not to. But no, I think it's core, like the idea of music journalism and music criticism is to tell people, like, to help articulate to a person why a piece of art matters. And you can do that by reviewing it. You can do that by talking to the people who made it and trying to understand them better and trying to, get the context of the stories behind this piece of art. Something can matter whether it's good or whether it's bad, or whether you think it's good or whether you think it's bad. And so I think another point you made, like, yeah, sometimes the point of a journalist, of a reporter in any field is, yeah, to tell on the bad people who do bad things.
Be a watchdog.
Yeah. Because it's in the interest of people to know. You know?
So then, kind of in the same vein, you, who probably has a better understanding of maybe Billboard, of journalism, do you have any perspective or opinions on, for example, with BTS, the way that, shitty articles come out about BTS that seem to be very well timed in correlation to something else, or the way that just like the music industry in general treats BTS? Like, do you have any insight into that or any opinions?
I mean, I think BTS is a group that's been around for almost 10 years now, and there are still people who are part of the old guard who just refuse to acknowledge them as more than an overnight sensation, or a fad, and it's irresponsible to do that, to refuse to acknowledge just how seismic their impact is. And that doesn't mean that they have to like it. They just have to acknowledge it and approach it with respect, and like write about these people with some dignity, afford them that, because they're owed that.
Why is it so hard?
Yeah. It's really interesting. It's like we keep figuring out, like, okay, there are certain jokes you can make, or certain jokes you make, or certain people that you joke about, that it's inappropriate to do so. And like, we make incremental progress on that, but it seems like no matter what, it's really easy to treat, BTS as a punching bag still.
Yep. And punch down.
Yeah. And it's punching down. And the thing is, like, the thing that really sucks, I mean, it all sucks, but I really do believe that, like, there are people who make these, careless one-off jokes, and they probably really believe in their own heart that they're not doing anything harmful, even though there is evidence of why it is harmful. But it's like, that's where the dissonance is. Like, they really don't think that their one crappy joke in a headline, or like in a paragraph, talking about how BTS appeals exclusively to hysterical teenage girls, they're like, I don't see a problem with that. And there's so much evidence that they shouldn't do that. But, until they realize the gravity of those kind of remarks, they're probably not going to change. They have no inclination to change.
Yeah. So then, in your opinion, then how do we affect change? Like, how does it improve? Is it just we wait for people to retire from music journalism, from being part of the industry?
Yeah, we gotta wait for them all to die or get fired. No, but seriously, cool. Like,
Settling
I think
for a 10-year wait.
Right. I mean, isn't that like the case with everything? We're just waiting for
certain people to die.
Talented, enterprising young people to rise up and take over everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, unfortunately, I think the best way to affect change is it requires a bit of waiting, but as publications hopefully begin to make incremental progress, with more diverse and enlightened hiring people who are open-minded and passionate about a variety of things, and are willing to write about those things, and afford them the respect that they deserve, and write about them from an informed point of view. The more that happens, I think the more, you know, credible and respectful reporting and critiquing we will see.
Mm-hmm.
Because again, you know, we've kind of touched on this, but no one has to like everything, but there's a right way and a wrong way to talk about why you don't like something.
Yep.
And it doesn't, you shouldn't have to resort to calling people names and
or resorting to stereotypes.
Right. Basically you shouldn't have to dehumanize people to talk about why you don't like the art they make.
Yep. Well said. Very true.
Yeah. So people are, you know, some people are slower to learn that than others, but you kind of just have to hope that they will get there eventually.
Yeah. So then I guess from your perspective, as somebody who's more focused on the music industry, on musicians perhaps of a certain genre, but you're more focused than the general public. From your perspective, like have you ever seen anything that's going on that shocked you? Or anything that you were like, I didn't know this was going on? Like, is there anything you think that the general public should be more aware of? That Army should be more aware of?
In what way?
Like, I don't know. Is there something that we don't understand about the music industry? That we don't understand, that stuff that goes on behind the scenes, relationships that exist that we don't know about, like, right? Because from the perspective of Army, we can only kind of back into the truth based on our experiences, based on maybe someone who has some relative that works in the industry that spreads that information on Twitter, based on trial and error, based on research into like different articles and trying to connect the dots. Like, is there something, I guess, you know, that's another question. Do you think that Army's understanding of the music industry, our understanding of payola, our understanding of radio and how disproportionate the impact it has and how often it's manipulated for Billboard results, like, are we accurate in our perception, or do you think there's some things that we're not accurate on, or ways in which we could improve our understanding?
Honestly, I probably don't know any more than the average, you know.
You think it's just
Army
as hidden?
Who is, yeah, and the reason I say that is because the music industry is so vast, and the, you know, music press is so vast. I am, despite your very generous using of the F word at the beginning of this chat, I am not a famous or important person in the music industry. I am no player at all. So and I don't do a lot of reporting on the raw, you know, business and numbers aspect of the industry anymore. And even when I was, a lot of it was speculation and reaction and trying to contextualize things that were already available.
When you write stuff like that, does it get you in trouble? Like, do doors close for you and opportunities like evaporate if you say things that like are poking at the underbelly of the music industry?
It has frustrated some people previously. You know, typically it blows over quickly because, again, at the end of the day, it's like my reflections or my opinions, or not things that I'm trying to pass off as fact, but rather a reaction to a lot of news. And, you know, if there's an occasional misunderstanding that is valid, we'll normally work it out behind the scenes.
Are you talking about that guy again who...
Actually, no. I mean,
no?
you know, there's plenty of examples where it's like, you know, there's the whole group of people whose job it is to respond to stories that are published and try to right the wrongs that they perceive to be there. So, you handle it in a little email thread and, patch things up, and normally no one's any worse for wear. Basically, I don't think I'm getting like blacklisted from writing for any publications for anything that I've published in the past.
Do you think
sometimes
you could be if you ever wrote about a certain topic? Like, how free is the free press when it's writing about the music industry?
No, I really don't think that it would come to that. And I mean, in order to be barred from those sort of opportunities, you would have to really like write a lot of, you would have to publish bald-faced lies and pretend that they were fact, and you would probably have to rip off a lot of people and lie and cheat your way to those stories. And at that point, you shouldn't be employed as a journalist anywhere, because you're just a liar.
Fair.
But no, I've had the goofiest DMs from fans of, various artists threatening to, I've had people Photoshop text conversations between me and, record label representatives where they make it look like I'm accepting like a bribe to mention their artist, like in the first paragraph of a story or something like that. And everyone's
is it
trying
really
to like
that deep?
It most certainly is not. And the bribe in this alleged conversation was far too low for me to ever consider jeopardizing my whole career. If you want me to leave the industry, you have to bankroll the rest of my retirement.
Was it what, like $500?
It was literally like $400. Yeah. The guy was like, hello, I will PayPal you $400 to mention so-and-so's name in the first paragraph of your article.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Graphic design is these people's passion.
Oh, okay. All right. That's very interesting.
All that is to say, people will send me things like that and be like, oh my God, we got your ass. Like, your career is over. And I'm like, no, it's not. No, nobody's falling for this. My career is fine.
So then, okay, is another question I have then is like, if you're a journalist, do you get pigeonholed into writing a certain way for a certain type of audience? Because sometimes, like, there's certain BTS articles, like, I can't remember who wrote one, but it was like someone from Pitchfork maybe, who wrote like a really weird, mostly negative review. I think it was of Map of the Soul 7. And people were annoyed by the criticism, but the like thought was that like, oh, well, he's writing for like the snobby Pitchfork crowd, so like he's gonna spin it a certain way and he's not gonna be neutral or fair, because the people who are reading his stuff wouldn't want to see him praising BTS. Like, is there any truth to that?
No, not typically. I mean, nowadays, especially like when writers who are either on staff or freelancers get, assigned a review, in my experience, there's really very little of like that sort of shady or like manipulative influence, and like, the publication is going to allow the writer to like have their voice and have their view. I mean, to a certain degree, you want to hire writers who are strong writers and have a strong voice and kind of understand the voice of your publication. I mean, every publication does have a different voice, but that doesn't mean that they have to share the same opinions across the staff. So no, I think if a writer gave an article a positive or negative review, they probably just felt that way.
So then another question, I've heard it said a lot on Twitter, so I don't know how accurate this is, that like the person who determines the spin of an article is not the writer but the editor. Is that true? Like, who, if there's a shitty article that comes out about BTS, who is the person who was the mastermind? Is it going to be the editor or is it going to be the writer?
Oh, I mean, in a perfect world, that would be kind of a collaborative process wherein
they were collaboratively shitty.
Well, I mean, if a writer submits a story and the point of the story is, well, something is bad, then you as the editor cannot take that story and rewrite it to express that, well, actually something is good. Like if the idea of something is bad is the idea that's submitted, then that's the one that will be published. It will be maybe cleaned up a little bit, punched up and fix a few commas here and there. But sorry, go ahead.
Who determines the idea for the article, though?
Sometimes editors will put out a call for pitches. Sometimes it'll be broad, ideas on a certain topic, and then people will pitch them. So sometimes the publication will kind of have an idea of what it wants. And other times people can, writers can pitch themselves or pitch their own ideas.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then, do you think that when we see a bad article, something that's really unfair and negative and damaging, and we refuse to click into it and we refuse to read it, does that have an actual impact on the person who wrote it and the publication that published it? Like, are we doing are we reacting appropriately and doing the harm that we think we're doing to somebody who's trying to harm BTS?
It pains me to say this, but probably not.
Why not?
Well, here's why I say that. I think most places that are publishing those kind of stories, they're certainly not all, exclusively page view oriented. Obviously they want to get eyeballs on their stories because everybody wants that sweet traffic to their website. But what I mean by that,
isn't that how they get paid for like ads? Like ads want to know how much people clicked in and saw said ad.
Yeah. They do care about all that sort of stuff. And ad revenue is super important, but it's just, I think a lot of times when stories like that get published in maybe they're written in bad faith or whatever, it gets published, it goes out into the ether, and maybe there's a large group of people who don't like it, but for that publication, it's like, well, we have like 45 other stories to publish today, so it's on to the next one. I guess what I'm trying to say is the people on the publication side of it, it's like they don't see it as,
for them it's one of many, right? So they're like, fine, it tanked. But like, what about the individual writer? Do they not get paid if no one's clicked into it?
Oh no. Pretty much any publications are paying their writers whether people read their stuff or not.
Damn.
Yeah. So, I mean, there are some places where pay is determined based on traffic, but those are not extremely common, and that's not a stellar industry practice.
Okay, so then,
yeah,
if we're not being as effectual as we might think we are when we don't read something, do you have any suggestions for something we could do alternatively that would get our point across in a way that hurts?
Well, here's what I'll say real quick before I offer that suggestion. I will say, by all means, like, there is nothing wrong with taking a principled stand and choosing not to open or read or share something. And even if it might not have the widespread repercussions that you might have hoped, there's certainly, just for the sake of, feeling like you did what felt good. By all means,
I'm never going to start reading those articles.
Yeah.
Screenshots right. for the win.
Right. I'm just trying to say, like, there is still a intrinsic value in not reading something, even if it's not hurting anyone else's wallet. But anyway, I mean, in general, like, publication's gonna publish, you know, they're gonna keep putting out stuff, some of it good, some of it bad. I mean, really, I would say the best way to like get anyone to pay attention is to just like, you know, be smart and thoughtful and compassionate in your you know,
reply. So like actually emailing the publication and explaining why it was wrong of them, or why it was damaging of them to write something.
Right. Just
does that actually reach them, or do editors go, okay, that's nice, delete? I
mean, editors get inundated with those emails every single day. So it's very likely that they'll see it and be like, oh, I don't have time for this. But that's not just because of the subject matter. That's all sorts of stuff. Like, most things people just don't have the time to reply to. But in general, like, being thoughtful and like graceful in your delivery of feedback, and this applies to anything in the world, like, obviously that's obvious. Yeah. That's obviously better than, you know, being a bully, which I'm not saying anyone is a bully. I want to make that clear. I think you understand that, but things can be heard in bad faith. So I want to make that clear.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, we're on the same page. Being reasonable, mature adults, responding appropriately, and being not threatening, not submitting death threats and emails. But yeah, but like, if an editor got like 10,000 emails from armies explaining why something was damaging or inappropriate, would they listen, and would that make them think like, okay, I'm not gonna approve any other articles that say stuff like this? Or do we literally have no control over any of this and shit just sucks?
I mean, well, you know, that's the beauty of the free press, baby.
I hate it.
I mean, look, you know, anyone's entitled to, you know, share their opinion and get that opinion published and paid money for it, and anybody's entitled to respond to it and outline why they do or don't like it.
So I'm trying to... we need to find people or start our own army publication so we can write rebuttal articles that get more attention than the original shitty article. Is that what you're saying?
That is an option, one of many that you could take.
Can you write about BTS at your current publication? Does it fit the genre?
Yeah, as soon as they do their long-awaited collaboration with Leonard Skinner, then yeah, I'll be able to write about it.
Okay, write that down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, start writing your letters to the labels now.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's a rumored collab happening with Snoop Dogg, so why not Leonard Skinner?
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
I missed that one, I guess.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if it happens, it'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then I want to circle back. So you said that for a while in New York, you worked for Billboard, right?
I had an internship there, yeah.
So what did you do, and like how would you categorize Billboard from what you've seen, I guess several years ago now, but like from what you saw from the inside?
I mean, it was, you know, a lot of it was just writing news, you know, not unlike the stuff I described earlier. Hey, this person, you know, has a new video out, or this person announced a tour, blah, blah, blah. We'd occasionally get to do some cool stuff, like go and interview people, sometimes in person, sometimes over the phone, you know, and those were like I was 22 years old. So at that point, all I was focused on was like trying to get the scraps off the table and just have a little fun and get a foot into the door.
And meet famous people?
Occasionally, yeah. That was, you know.
What's the most famous person you met?
At Billboard?
I get
or in general?
at Billboard and in general, I guess.
Okay. I did a in-person interview with Nikki Sixx when I was at Billboard, and that was Nikki Sixx and Motley Crue. And
Okay.
I mean, okay, so keep in mind, like for me, that's hot shit. That's Valhalla. Thankfully,
Uh-huh.
my version of famous and my peers' version of famous at that time was quite a bit different. So all my idols are like over the age of 50, so I didn't have much competition. Um,
Hey, that's how you get
eh,
ahead.
right? Yeah, exactly. It helps to be a 72-year-old in a 26-year-old's body.
That's
The
probably
most
a good way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, the most famous person I ever met, and again, this doesn't impress people nowadays, but Garth Brooks.
Nice. Okay.
Right. The best-selling solo artist in history. But people forget that. They just know him as like goofy cowboy hat guy.
That's how I know him as.
See?
Yeah. Okay. All right. That answered my question. Sorry. Resume your story about Billboard.
Right. So I mean, all I'm saying is like, we were just the interns, so we were very rarely privy to like any sort of cool stuff. We sat in on like 1 hour long meeting a week where it was like the pitch meeting. But like we weren't really hearing anything juicy. And God forbid there was like an office scandal or something, like we would not have heard about it, like somebody might have been gone the next day and we would have been like, oh well, that cubicle is vacant now, but like no one was going to tell us anything.
And that's where you had hoped that they would give you a full-time job.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you gotta be in the family to learn about all the dirty secrets.
Makes sense.
But no, I have very minimal knowledge of what goes on at Billboard, and I keep in touch with like 2 editors there at most.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, then, do you have any opinions on Billboard these days? I'm sure you know that Army has a lot of beef with Billboard in terms of how number ones on Billboard charts are calculated, in terms of how there's a disproportionate influence that radio plays, in terms of how there's this, like, in my opinion, and please correct me if I'm wrong, there's like this clandestine relationship between labels, radio, Billboard, and that it's this like secret thing that just ends up making them all angry when we push BTS to the top. Am I accurate in saying that, or am I turning them into a Disney villain that they are not?
So let me say, if there is any sort of vast network of conspiracies related to the Billboard charts, I am not familiar with them. But I do think that the methodology is antiquated, and I do agree that radio is effectively meaningless in real life, and yet it is given a hugely disproportional weight in the overall chart equation. But I will also say that the like chart beat at Billboard is a very specific thing, and it's somewhat related to editorial, but like not really the kind of editorial that I had any interest in doing there. Like me writing like features or Q&As for Billboard's website like had virtually no intersection with any of the chart beat stuff. The only thing it would be for me was like a resource to consult to get numbers right or something.
Yeah.
But the relationship between labels and radio has for several years now kind of been public knowledge. I know Rolling Stone did a piece on it in I think 2019 outlining all the different ways that radios or labels would effectively bribe radios. They might not put cash directly in hand, so like maybe they couldn't call it payola, but it was payola by any other name. I am sure that has happened, does happen, will happen in various forms, probably forever. And you know, every so often we'll remember and get mad about it, but like it'll probably just keep happening.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you could reform the way, well, I guess twofold question. One, if there is a way that you could reform the Billboard charts and how popularity or how success is calculated, would you? And like, how would you do that? And then the second question is do you think Billboard charts matter?
I would fix them by getting rid of them because they don't matter. There, I just answered both
Boom!
questions at once.
And why do you think they don't matter? I want your professional opinion.
Because they're just often not indicative of real life. What I mean by that is, like, if left to their own devices, fans can figure out how to manipulate those charts. Labels can figure out how to manipulate those charts. Like, you know, artists can figure out how to coerce their fans into helping them manipulate those charts. They are so subject to change and to foul play that it's like they're just like not connected to reality anymore. Like, how many times do you see an artist with a #1 single or a #1 record that can't sell out a 2,000 person theater? And how often do you see artists who don't even chart albums anymore, who effectively get blackballed from the singles charts and then can sell out arenas, you know, months in advance? So it's just like, the only way that I think is worthwhile for artists to measure success by the dollars in their own pocket. If they're living, making art and playing shows and doing what they want, and connecting with fans, it really doesn't matter if they have a #1 hit or a number 199 hit.
Mm-hmm. Well, then,
I mean, at this point, I really do think that like the purpose of getting a #1 hit is either A, so you can brag about having a #1 hit, or B, so you can leverage it to get other opportunities because other people still consider the Billboard charts to be more important than I think they deserve.
Yeah. Well, then, like, this obsession or need for us as music listeners to determine, like, oh, what is the most popular song? What is the most successful artist? Is there a point to that? And is there a way that we can objectively determine that? Like, can it just be like based on who can sell out the largest amount of seats on a tour?
Well, I think there's like different, I mean, success can mean different things, or it can manifest itself in different ways. Like, there are some artists for whom touring is their bedrock, and so they focus on that more, and they probably reap the benefits of it more. There
Isn't
are
that
artists
usually
for
like
whom,
more like rock artists that are like
definitely
that?
rock artists, a lot of legacy artists in general. Country artists make a ton of money off touring, way more than they do like with album sales. But you know, maybe for pop or hip hop artists, like maybe streaming and like other sort of, you know, other forms of revenue are more important than going out and playing, you know, 180 shows a year. So, you know, I feel like when, you know, 40, 50, 60 years ago, the charts were an interesting way to actually determine like what was the most popular stuff.
Was it because it was before the internet?
Maybe. But also it was just, I mean, it was also subject to inaccuracy then too, because it was basically an honor system where you would call record stores and ask how much they sold of each record. And if you hated that band, you could say I sold 0, and that's just what was taken to be fact. And this is pre-Nielsen SoundScan. But I mean, I don't know. I think there was something more primitive and almost wholesome about the charts back then. It was like, wow, this is an actual hit. Everybody loves it. I mean, there was still payola back then too. But nowadays, and I don't know when exactly this changed, but there's a tendency with a lot of music fans to treat their favorite artists like their favorite sports teams.
Yeah.
And suddenly it was like liking the artist wasn't good enough anymore. Like they needed to prove that their love for that artist was valid and legitimate. And the way that they could prove that was by having #1 albums and #1 singles to show for it. It was like, see, look how famous they are. Of course I should love them.
Look how much everyone loves them. Like, you don't like them, then you're in the wrong and we're all on the right.
Right. And it was like, whatever happened to just like saying, hey man, I don't really like that, but it's cool that you do. Like no one is allowed to harmlessly dislike anything anymore. It's very strange. It's like, it's like disliking something is so often seen as an act of aggression.
Yeah, and it also usually means that like, oh, you're a bad person. But also the way people convey that they dislike something is usually by attacking it. Like, I don't like this because it's bad, objectively bad, or because stupid people are the only ones who like this. Like, it's very when it's actually very easy and acceptable just to be like, I don't like it, not for me. I don't have to give you a reason. Exactly. I just don't like it.
Yeah, totally. And I also want to say, like, you know, per your question about, you know, we were kind of talking about the value of the Billboard charts for particular artists. I will say, like, it does make sense that Army is concerned with and interested in, like, helping songs or albums get to #1 because of what we were talking about, how for some artists that can be used as leverage for other opportunities. So for a group that is like historically othered or considered, you know, inferior, that is leverage that can afford them other opportunities. So basically that's like that's industry-wide validation. So that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I mean, all of this is a nuanced discussion, right? There's no like don't do it at all, or yes, do it all the time. It's like, yes, I think the charts are sometimes important, but I think we agree that they're not perfect and that there's a lot of ways to manipulate them, and a lot of people are motivated to manipulate them for a variety of reasons. And at the end of the day, enjoying music has nothing to do with who is in what position on the chart.
Totally. Yeah. And if you know that, then like, if you know that and then you have disposable income and that's the way that you want to express your love for that artist, go ahead.
Take my money. I did that. That was fun. Okay. So then another thing that you mentioned, talking about how like artists kind of rely on the charts and like how they make money. So question for you. And the way I understand it is basically that artists make money in like only a couple of different ways. One way is that they actually like make music and people hopefully buy it. Another way is that they hold a concert and people pay to go see them perform. A third way, theoretically, is that their music is put on streaming platforms and they get paid for people streaming. Paid sometimes?
Yeah, nobody makes shit off that one.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it. Those are the 3 ways I can think of, unless they get some kind of like endorsement deal to endorse something.
Endorsements, you know, sync licensing, like having your song played in a TV show or a movie or an advertisement. That can be a really great evergreen source of income too. But basically, like support, especially on a, you know, independent and DIY level, the best way to support artists is like physical media that you can buy directly from them, whether it's like, you know, vinyl or t-shirts or any sort of merchandise. But yeah, there's, you know, physical product, streaming and touring.
Why don't artists make any money off of streaming? Can you explain it to us as if we're 6 years old?
I mean, Spotify pays fractions of a penny per stream. I don't know the exact amount, but
does anyone? It feels like no one knows, and Spotify gets to make it up as they go.
Let's see if I can find it real quick. Let's see. It's between 0.003 and 0.005. So it's between 1/2 of a penny and 1/3 of a penny per stream.
For anyone, or is that like on average?
No. That's just like their payout rate. Like that's how artists get paid per stream.
How do you get your music on Spotify? Can just like anyone submit their music and say, "Here you go, Spotify. You can have my song. People can listen to it. Please pay me half a penny per stream."
Yeah, there's services that you can use, like TuneCore and CD Baby are two of the popular ones, and they're like.
Are those hosting platforms?
Basically, it's kind of like I guess a distribution platform. You know, you upload it through them, and they will put it on all of the requisite streaming services. Yeah.
So you have to pay these hosting platforms to get your music on Spotify, right?
Yeah.
And then Spotify doesn't pay you back. So basically you lose money from streaming.
Yeah, I mean, I still, from my old band, when I put our album on Spotify, I still get PayPal deposits of like 20 cents a month.
Yay.
Yeah, so it's like, all right, well, good to know literally one person cares.
One person listened to it 40 times?
It was probably me. I probably just put it on when I was like, oh, let me relive my my old glory days. And I just gave myself 20 cents, probably.
Nice. But, okay, so then I guess my next question is like, I assume that artists put their music on these streaming platforms because that is the only way and the fastest way to have your music reach the most number of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So then, how do we get away from that? Because I feel like as a society of music listeners, we are all kind of addicted and dependent on streaming platforms. Unless you're a devoted fan like Army, who even while we stream will go out and specifically buy the song, you know, to say fuck you to the music industry. What can we do to like change that, right? Because you also have all of those artists who I've seen on Twitter, like, you know, speak up about it, being like, we need to get away from Spotify. Spotify sucks. Even Kanye West said that his new album is not going to be released on any streaming platform except his own. Like, what the hell are we supposed to do except, like, that, I guess?
Okay, well, there's a bit of a silver lining here, and that is that all of the artists that you mentioned, like, artists of that stature, they don't need your money, whether it's on Spotify or like the difference between an album sold and an album streamed to them when they are that rich and successful, like it's negligible.
But aren't they the ones who are the only ones who can take a stand? Like, if a smaller artist did it, nobody would care, right? Like, the biggest publicity is going to come from like a A-list celebrity doing that.
Exactly. Yeah. I do think at this point Spotify and other streaming services are so huge that like it really doesn't matter how many artists take a stand. I mean, it would take like an entire platform-wide revolt, which I don't think is likely to happen. Just because, like, not even because the artists are like, they don't believe in it, but like, it's just hard to get something that radical to happen, that massive an exodus. That's super rare. I don't think that's likely. But yeah, I mean, that totally sucks for smaller artists because, yeah, they are effectively like making no money on streaming services. They haven't been able to tour often in the last couple of years. So it's like, for them, if you can buy stuff directly from them, physical media is a huge help.
So then I think the reason these streaming platforms continue to exist is because of convenience. It is so convenient as a music listener to get the song you want to listen to instantly.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes me think like, okay, well, they're never going away unless like right? Like, it's very demoralizing.
I don't think they will ever go away. Because yeah, too many, like, no matter how many people no matter how many dissenting voices against Spotify you might hear, there are always going to be so many more people who don't give a shit and just want to listen to their favorite songs. Like, there's always going to be more people who just don't care and are going to keep doing it. And that's okay.
So, okay.
Because it's not up to an individual to take a principled stand and take down an entire corrupt corporation. Like, it's impossible. So if you want to keep listening to Spotify, you probably shouldn't feel guilty about it.
Well, thank you for those comforting words. So then, question. You know how a lot of fandoms, including Army, really care about streaming numbers on Spotify? Like, oh, they, like, this artist is the most streamed artist on Spotify of all time, or top 5 streamed artist, whatever. Does that matter in any way? Or are we, by streaming so much on Spotify, putting money in Spotify's pocket? And is the benefit to Spotify greater than the benefit we give to BTS, for example, by making them quote-unquote visible as one of the most streamed artists on Spotify? Because I go back and forth on this.
I mean, I think it helps to have their name in headlines, which is, one of the positive consequences of streaming them so much and helping break records. I don't know if there's any tangible benefit as far as, like, are they making more money if they get 45 million views in a day or if they get 90 million views in a day? I don't know about that. I think insofar as, like, it keeps them in the news. It keeps them
relevant.
Yeah, it keeps them in people's mouths, whether they're fans or not. I think there's value in that, but I also think that, like, I think if, like, a record wasn't broken or if something, fell short, it wouldn't have a negative effect on them either.
Yeah. Okay. So then, what was my question?
I'm also probably gonna have to go in about, maybe like a couple more questions.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I've been having fun talking with you about all of this.
Oh, me too. That's why I'm here.
Yeah. Okay. So then, one more question then. I read somewhere that Spotify pays you more if you were one of the artists that was streamed more that month. Is that true? Do you know anything about that? Like, I read some article that was describing it as, like, whoever were the biggest artists streamed that month get a higher percentage of the money that was made that month from streaming. Do you know anything about that?
I don't, honestly. I understand what you're saying. It's kind of like it's like a tiered system. If you're, like, in the 90th percentile of streamed artists,
yes,
it's like you get, like, incentives basically, or like a better rate. I mean, I honestly have no idea. The concept makes sense when you explain it, so, like, I could see it happening, but no, I have no idea.
Yeah. Okay. So then, at the end of the day, we agree that there's all these weird problems, all these things that are, like, vestiges of old systems that used to make sense in the past. Like, problems. Like, what is the problem? Like, who is the source of the problem in all this? Is it the fans who like, music listeners who just don't know or don't care? Is it Spotify and other streaming platforms? Is it artists participating in something that doesn't help them? Is it labels preying on creatives because they can? Like, where do you think the biggest portion of the problem is?
Okay, so I'm going to give an answer that I believe is true, but it's also kind of glib and existential, but I stand by it.
Okay.
Ever since somebody figured out that music was something that you could make money off of, there has been mistreatment of musicians and artists forced to make concessions. that is a problem as old as time, and it will never stop as long as, you know, the people with money continue to be in charge. And the, you know, there are so many monolithic corporations that have so much money that they can just make all the rules and, you know, decide to pay nobody.
Do you think
they're always gonna be the villains? They're always the ones to blame.
the people in power, the people with money?
Yes, it's never.
People with money are the problem.
I mean, yeah, billionaires are literally always the problem. Like,
agreed.
On one hand, you could interpret this as sad, but I interpret it as liberating. Fans really like do not have the power or the resources to affect industry-wide change on that massive of a scale. But that doesn't mean that you should stop taking principled stands and that you should stop supporting the things that you love. It just means that you should do it in any way you see fit, because you don't have to worry about taking on an entire corporation. Like, that shouldn't be a fan's job anyway.
So basically what you're saying is that we're waiting for someone richer to come along and be on our side.
Yeah, you need to start courting the rest of the billionaires in the world who have not been sold on the concept of BTS yet.
Well, you know who has a lot of money? Hybe. Do you?
Yes, they most certainly do.
Do you think they could affect change by, you know, like they've created a Hybe America branch? Like, do you think they bought Ithaca Holdings? Like, do you think they're trying to break into the the Western music industry so that they could be a player in the game? And
oh yeah, I think so. And I think the fact that, you know, they have they've demonstrated such a good business sense. They have such a good track record, and the way that their results speak for themselves, that could be something that other companies would want to emulate in the future. And, you know, provided that Hybe is as good as we all think it is, then that would be a great development in the industry.
Right, because I would
seems
think,
like their lead would be a good one to follow.
Yeah, because I would also think, like, if you're a new artist and you want to sign with a label or you want to work with one of, you know, an agency, you would want to go for Hybe if they were in the Western space, because you would know, like, oh, this company has a reputation of treating their artists well. I want to work hard for them versus anyone else. And then that way they would siphon off all the good talent to them. Right.
I mean, yeah, it's fascinating to see the way that they're willing to play the long game to nurture their artists. That's the kind of old-fashioned A&R work that was a lot more common in like the 70s. You don't really see that anymore. Now it's like it's like a pump and dump scheme every time an artist gets signed. You know, they want to milk them for 6 months of like viral TikTok bangers and then go on to the next one.
Yep.
But companies and artists that are willing to play the long game, I think will almost always have the more successful careers, as long as they're willing to go through the hard times in the beginning. And the way that Hybe is like kind of becoming a multi-pronged, not multicultural, but I guess, platform sort of company. Mm-hmm. You know, they do things beyond just being a record label or an artist management company. And it's fascinating to see how they've like grown their brand and gotten into different branches of business.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you entirely. That's literally why all I do is make videos on finance and business and how I love Hybe and their model. So I'm on the same page as you completely. Okay, so then final question for you, and I really appreciate your time. Who is your BTS bias and why?
Do you know that answer?
I do. And it makes me very happy. It's Bang PD Nim.
Excuse me?
I'm kidding. Well, that's my bias.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Him and Lenzo Yoon. the CEO of the Hive America branch now.
Right. That's why you're so fascinated by the financial workings of this institution.
Yes, but no, Jimin is my bias. So why Jimin?
It was a while until I even like thought about having a bias. For the first probably year and a half that I listened to BTS, I just never thought about it. And then I remember I tuned in for the Dynamite midnight premiere. I think it was like the first premiere I tuned in for because it was the first one like
that was on America time. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And I watched the video and there's this part kind of in the middle where like they all look at the camera one by one and like Jimin looked at the camera and I was like, wow, this is a supernaturally beautiful man.
Yes.
Like, wow, cannot believe like superhuman. And like
he knows
with a gorgeous falsetto too. It was absurd. So yeah, in that moment I was hooked. There's no going back.
I love it. That is literally the best explanation. That makes me really happy. Okay, fine. I guess one more question then. Favorite album or favorite song from BTS? I know it's hard to pick. Your current favorite, if you can't choose one forever.
I think the one that I'm the most inclined to pull up first still is Map of the Soul 7.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with you completely. Favorite song?
I would probably say 0 O'Clock.
I would not have pegged you for that, especially if you are such like a rock fan.
Yeah, and I mean, there are plenty of heavier songs that I also love, but
like I would think Dionysus.
Well, that's I mean, they're like neck and neck. Hard to compare. It's like because it's like apples and oranges, really. Yeah. But
why 0 O'Clock?
I think it just has like one of their just sweetest melodies ever. It's just like so. There's so much like I don't know longing in that melody. It's just a great hook. Like it's in my head constantly.
It's got a really catchy melody, yeah.
No matter what I'm doing or where I am, it's just I just constantly think of that song more than any other.
Oh, that makes me really happy. That's really sweet.
Yeah.
So basically you're a big softie on the inside.
Yeah, I can appreciate a good ballad every now and then.
Okay. Well, thank you for your time. I really appreciate you spending tonight with me to talk about all of this and letting me pick your brain and get your opinions on all these different things. I really enjoyed it. I hope you had fun talking to me.
I did. Thank you for having me, and I hope that I passed the audition.
Yes, you did. And it's really nice to finally be able to talk to you face to face rather than just through Twitter.
I agree.
Yeah, so
I agree.
I wish you the best of luck in finalizing your EP, and I hope to hear it when it's out and maybe have you back so you can talk to us about the music making process and explain to us how it works for those of us who are not musicians ourselves.
Yeah, I promise you I will not shut up about it when it's out. So
good.
You will definitely know. I would love to.
Good. Alrighty, thank you guys for joining us in the chat. I hope you had a lot of fun, and I will see you next time. Bye, guys.